What happens when a beloved actress sits down for what should be a friendly morning chat and ends up in the most explosive confrontation daytime television has ever seen? This is the story of how one interview went so disastrously wrong that it ended with security escorting a guest offset, cameras still rolling, and millions of viewers watching in absolute shock. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us what you think about what went down. Now, let's get into it. The studio lights were blazing hot that morning as Cheryl Hines walked onto the view set, waving to the audience with that warm smile everyone knows from her years on television. She was there to talk about her latest project, a documentary series she had been passionate about for years. The audience applauded enthusiastically as she took her seat at the table, smoothing down her dress and accepting a glass of water from a production assistant. Whoopi Goldberg kicked things off with her usual welcoming energy, asking Cheryl about her documentary and the journey of bringing it to life. Cheryl leaned forward, clearly excited to share her work. "You know, this project has been such a labor of love," she began, her voice warm and genuine. "We spent 3 years traveling across the country, talking to real people about their experiences, their struggles, their triumphs. I wanted to show stories that don't always get told in mainstream media." The conversation flowed easily for the first few minutes. Sarah Haynes asked about the production challenges, and Cheryl shared some funny anecdotes about filming in remote locations. Sunny Hostin chimed in with questions about the documentary's themes, and Cheryl responded thoughtfully, discussing the importance of authentic storytelling. The audience seemed engaged, laughing at the right moments, applauding when appropriate. Everything seemed to be going exactly as planned. Then Joy Behar, who had been sitting back with her arms crossed, leaned forward with a slight smirk on her face. "So Cheryl," she said, her tone carrying an edge that immediately shifted the energy in the room, "let's talk about the real reason you're here today. Your documentary. It's got some pretty controversial viewpoints, doesn't it? Some might even say it's pushing a certain agenda that not everyone agrees with." Cheryl's smile faltered for just a moment, but she recovered quickly. "I wouldn't say controversial, Joy. I'd say it's honest. We interviewed people from all walks of life, all different backgrounds and perspectives. The whole point was to show diversity of thought and experience." Joy waved her hand dismissively. "Come on, we all know what this is really about. You've aligned yourself with certain people, certain viewpoints that a lot of us find pretty troubling. Don't you think you have a responsibility, given your platform, to be more careful about the messages you're putting out there?" The other hosts shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Whoopi tried to interject, "Well, I think what Cheryl is trying to say is," but Joy cut her off. No, I want to hear this from her," Joy insisted, her eyes fixed on Cheryl. "Because I've seen some of the clips from this documentary, and honestly, I have to question your judgment here. You're giving a platform to ideas that, frankly, are dangerous. How do you justify that?" Cheryl sat up straighter, her professional composure starting to show cracks. "Joy, I think you're mischaracterizing the entire project. We didn't set out to push any agenda. We set out to listen. That's what journalism used to be about, remember? Listening to people, even when you don't agree with them?" "Oh, don't lecture me about journalism," Joy shot back, her voice rising. "I've been doing this for decades. And what I see here is someone who's lost their way, who's decided that giving airtime to fringe ideas somehow makes them enlightened or balanced. It doesn't. It makes them complicit." The audience had gone completely silent. You could feel the tension radiating through the studio. Cheryl's face had gone from friendly and open to tense and guarded. "Complicit in what exactly?" she asked, her voice steady but with steel underneath. "Complicit in letting people tell their own stories? In not filtering everything through one narrow perspective?" "There it is," Joy said, pointing at Cheryl triumphantly. "That's exactly what I'm talking about. This false equivalency, this idea that every opinion deserves equal weight. Some things are just wrong, Cheryl, and pretending otherwise isn't brave or open-minded, it's irresponsible." Sunny tried to step in. "I think maybe we should talk about the specific content of the documentary rather than making broad assumptions." But Joy wasn't finished. "I've seen enough of the content to know what this is," she continued, ignoring Sunny entirely. "And I have to say, I'm disappointed. I used to respect you, Cheryl. I thought you were smarter than this. But clearly, you've been spending too much time in certain circles, listening to certain people, and it's clouded your judgment." Cheryl's hands gripped the armrests of her chair. "You haven't even watched the full documentary, have you?" she asked, her voice sharp now. You've seen a few clips, taken out of context, and you've decided you know everything about it. That's not fair, and it's not honest. I don't need to watch the whole thing to see what it is, Joy replied with a dismissive laugh. It's like saying I need to eat an entire rotten apple to know it's bad. I can tell from the smell. That's incredibly insulting, Cheryl said, her voice rising to match Joy's volume. You're sitting here, on national television, attacking a project you haven't even fully seen. Attacking me personally, questioning my character, my intelligence. And for what? Because I dared to make something that doesn't fit neatly into your worldview? Joy leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms again. Your worldview is the problem here, Cheryl, and yes, I'm questioning it. Someone needs to. You come on here thinking you're going to get a free pass to promote this nonsense, but that's not how it works. Not on this show. I didn't come here expecting a free pass, Cheryl said, her voice shaking slightly with anger now. I came here expecting a conversation, an actual dialogue. But what I'm getting instead is a lecture from someone who's already made up their mind, who has no interest in actually understanding what we created or why. Whoopi tried again to regain control. Ladies, I think we all need to take a breath here and… No, Joy interrupted, holding up her hand. I'm not done. Cheryl, you need to understand something. You have a platform. You have influence. And with that comes responsibility. You can't just throw your hands up and say, you're just telling stories. Stories have power. They shape how people think, how they see the world. And when you choose to tell certain stories, to elevate certain voices, you're making a choice about what you're supporting. Cheryl stood up abruptly, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. The audience gasped. You know what, Joy? I'm done with this. I came here in good faith to talk about my work, and instead, I'm being ambushed. You haven't asked me a single genuine question. You've just attacked me from the moment you opened your mouth. Sit down, Cheryl, Joy said, her voice cold. We're not finished here. Yes, we are, Cheryl replied, her voice firm. I don't have to sit here and be disrespected like this. This isn't an interview. It's a character assassination, and I won't participate in it. Joy stood up as well, matching Cheryl's stance. You're walking away because you can't defend your choices. That's what this is really about. I'm walking away because this conversation is pointless. Cheryl shot back. You're not interested in understanding anything. You just want to feel superior, to tear someone down on camera. Well, congratulations. You've succeeded. The other hosts were all standing now too, trying to calm the situation. Sarah reached out toward Cheryl. Please, let's just take a moment. But Cheryl was already removing her microphone, her hands fumbling with the battery pack clipped to her dress. I'm sorry to the rest of you, she said, looking at Whoopi, Sarah, Sunny, and Alyssa. You've been lovely, but I can't do this. I won't do this. Joy stepped around the table, moving closer to Cheryl. Running away, just like I thought you would. Can't handle being challenged, can you? Cheryl turned to face Joy directly, and the two women stood just feet apart, the cameras capturing every second of the confrontation. Cheryl's eyes flashed with anger as she stared Joy down. I'm not running away from anything, she said, her voice low and controlled. I'm refusing to engage with someone who has no interest in a fair conversation. There's a difference. Fair? Joy laughed bitterly. You want to talk about fair? Let's talk about what's fair. Is it fair that you get to use your celebrity to spread ideas that hurt people? Is it fair that you get a documentary deal to push viewpoints that undermine the very foundations of what this country should stand for? You keep saying I'm pushing viewpoints, but you won't even specify what you're talking about, Cheryl fired back. You're speaking in vague accusations because you know if you got specific, your entire argument would fall apart. You haven't watched the documentary. You don't know what's in it. You're attacking a straw man. Joy's face reddened. I know enough. I know you sat down with people who… Who what? Cheryl interrupted, stepping even closer. Who think differently than you? Who have experiences that challenge your worldview? That's what this is really about, isn't it? You can't stand the idea that someone might present perspectives that don't align perfectly with yours. Don't twist this around, Joy snapped. This isn't about different perspectives. This is about right and wrong. Some things aren't up for debate, Cheryl. And by pretending they are, you're doing real harm. Cheryl shook her head in disbelief. So, you're the arbiter of what's right and wrong? You decide what can and can't be discussed? That's a pretty dangerous position to take, Joy. That's not journalism. That's authoritarianism. The audience had erupted into murmurs, some people gasping at the exchange. Whoopi was frantically gesturing to the producers in the booth, clearly trying to figure out how to salvage the situation, but Joy and Cheryl were locked in their confrontation, neither willing to back down. "How dare you call me authoritarian," Joy said, her voice shaking with rage. "I've spent my entire career fighting for freedom, for justice, for the truth. And I won't apologize for calling out someone who's undermining all of that, even if she used to be America's sweetheart." "There it is," Cheryl said, a bitter smile crossing her face. "That's what this is really about. You're upset that I don't fit into the box you created for me. You're angry that I evolved, that I formed my own opinions, that I refuse to just parrot whatever talking points you deem acceptable." Joy pointed her finger directly at Cheryl's face. "You didn't evolve. You regressed. You got seduced by a narrative that makes you feel special, like you're seeing something everyone else is missing, but you're not enlightened, Cheryl. You're just another celebrity who fell down a rabbit hole and is now trying to drag other people down with you." "That is enough," Cheryl said, her voice cutting through the tension like a knife. "You don't know me. You don't know what I believe or why I believe it. You've invented an entire narrative in your head based on your own prejudices and assumptions, and you're treating it as fact. That's not just unfair, it's delusional." Joy's mouth dropped open. "Did you just call me delusional?" "If the shoe fits," Cheryl replied coldly. "You're sitting here having an argument with a version of me that only exists in your imagination. You're attacking positions I never took, defending against threats I never made. So yes, from where I'm standing, that seems pretty delusional." The other host looked absolutely stunned. Sunny had her hand over her mouth. Sarah looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. Alyssa was staring wide-eyed at the scene unfolding before her. Whoopi was the only one still trying to intervene. "Okay, ladies, I really think we need to—" Whoopi started. "Stay out of this, Whoopi," Joy said sharply, not taking her eyes off Cheryl. "This needs to be said. Someone needs to stand up and say it." "Stand up and say what?" Cheryl demanded. "That you disagree with me? Fine. That you think I'm wrong? Okay. But this isn't about disagreement, Joy. This is about you trying to humiliate me, trying to use your platform to bully someone who won't fall in line. And I have news for you, it's not going to work." "I'm not trying to bully you," Joy said, though her tone suggested otherwise. "I'm trying to hold you accountable. There's a difference, though I'm not surprised you can't see it." "Accountable for what?" Cheryl's voice rose to match the intensity in the room. "For making a documentary? For interviewing people? For having the audacity to think for myself? You keep using these grand words like accountability and responsibility. But what you really mean is conformity. You want everyone to think exactly like you do, and when they don't, you attack them." Joy stepped back slightly, reassessing her approach. When she spoke again, her voice was calmer but somehow more cutting. "You know what's really sad, Cheryl? You actually believe what you're saying. You've convinced yourself that you're some kind of free-thinking maverick, standing up against the establishment. But look around. Look at who's supporting your documentary. Look at who's promoting it, who's celebrating it. You're not fighting the establishment, you're just serving a different one." "And you're not?" Cheryl countered immediately. "You sit here every day, in your comfortable chair, making six figures, telling middle America what to think. You're as establishment as it gets, Joy. The only difference is you've convinced yourself you're on the right side, so that makes it okay." "There is a right side?" Joy insisted. "History will show that. And it will show that people like you, people who played both sides, who refused to take a clear stand, were part of the problem." "I have taken a stand," Cheryl said firmly. "I've taken a stand for nuance, for complexity, for treating people as individuals rather than stereotypes. I've taken a stand for actually listening instead of just waiting for my turn to talk. And I've taken a stand for the radical idea that maybe, just maybe, the world isn't as simple as you want to pretend it is." Joy laughed harshly. "Nuance, complexity, those are just code words for moral cowardice. When you refuse to call out what's wrong, when you hide behind false equivalence and both sidesism, you're not being sophisticated, you're being weak. And when you reduce everything to black and white, when you refuse to acknowledge any gray area, when you demonize anyone who doesn't perfectly align with your views, you're not being principled." Cheryl shot back. "You're being simplistic, lazy even. It's easier to divide the world into good guys and bad guys than to actually grapple with complexity. I don't need lectures about complexity from someone who's clearly been manipulated by... Manipulated? Cheryl cut her off, her voice rising to a shout. You think I'm manipulated? You think I'm some naive idiot who can't think for herself? That's the most condescending, arrogant thing you've said yet, and that's really saying something. Joy matched her volume. If you could think for yourself, you wouldn't have made this documentary in the first place. You wouldn't be out here defending the indefensible. I'm not defending anything except my right to make my own choices, to form my own opinions, to create work that reflects my own values. Cheryl was fully yelling now, all pretense of television decorum abandoned. And the fact that you can't accept that you need everyone to think exactly like you do, says everything about you and nothing about me. My values are about protecting people, Joy shouted back. Your values are about protecting your own ego, your own sense of being special and different. You don't care who gets hurt as long as you get to feel like the smartest person in the room. You're projecting, Cheryl yelled. Everything you just accused me of is exactly what you're doing right now. You're up here, on your platform, using your power to attack someone who can't fight back on equal terms. You're the bully here, Joy. You're the one who should be ashamed. Whoopi finally stood up, her voice booming across the set. Both of you need to stop right now. This has gone way too far. But it was like neither of them could hear her. They were locked in their battle, both convinced of their own righteousness, neither willing to give an inch. I won't be ashamed of standing up for what's right, Joy said, her voice hoarse from shouting. And I won't apologize for calling you out, no matter how uncomfortable it makes you. You're not standing up for anything, Cheryl said, her voice now dangerously quiet. You're tearing someone down to make yourself feel big. That's all this has ever been. You saw an opportunity to score points, to look tough in front of your audience, and you took it. You don't care about truth or justice or any of the high-minded ideals you keep invoking. You just care about winning. Joy's face had gone pale with anger. Get off my show, she said coldly. Your show? Cheryl laughed incredulously. Last I checked, this was called The View, not the Joy Behar Hour, but I guess that explains a lot about how you've been acting. I said, get off my show, Joy repeated, louder this time. She turned toward the wings, where producers and crew members were standing frozen in shock. Someone get her out of here now. Whoopi stepped between them, holding up both hands. Joy, you can't just kick a guest off the show. That's not how this works. Watch me, Joy said, her eyes still locked on Cheryl. She's disrespectful. She's disruptive. And I won't have her on this stage for one more second. Cheryl laughed again, but there was no humor in it. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. You start this whole thing? You attack me from the moment I sit down? You refuse to let anyone else speak? And somehow, I'm the disruptive one? Yes, you are disruptive, Joy insisted, her voice shaking with barely controlled fury. You came here with your agenda, your persecution complex, acting like you're some kind of victim when really you're just someone who can't handle being challenged. Well, this is my territory, and I don't have to tolerate it. Cheryl took a step toward Joy, and the energy in the room shifted to something almost dangerous. Your territory? Listen to yourself. You sound like a dictator. This is supposed to be a talk show, a place for conversation, but you've turned it into your personal fiefdom where anyone who doesn't bow down gets thrown out. I'm done talking to you, Joy said, turning away from Cheryl and addressing the producers again. Get security up here. I want her escorted out. She's not welcome here anymore. Sunny finally found her voice. Joy, this is crazy. We can't just throw out a guest because you had an argument with her. Think about how this looks. I don't care how it looks, Joy snapped, whirling on Sunny. I care about maintaining some standards on this show, and those standards don't include giving a platform to people who spread dangerous ideas. Dangerous ideas, Cheryl repeated, shaking her head in disbelief. You keep saying that, but you won't define it. What exactly is so dangerous, Joy? That I talk to people you don't like? That I ask questions you don't approve of? That I refuse to paint the world in the simplistic terms you prefer? Joy turned back to face her, and there was something almost desperate in her eyes now. You're normalizing extremism. You're making it seem acceptable, reasonable even. And that is dangerous, whether you want to admit it or not. I'm not normalizing anything, Cheryl said, her voice steady despite the chaos around them. I'm documenting reality. I'm showing what people actually think and feel, not what you wish they thought and felt. And if that makes you uncomfortable, that's your problem, not mine. 2 security guards had appeared at the edge of the stage, looking uncertain about what they were supposed to do. One of them spoke into his radio, clearly getting instructions from someone. The audience was in complete chaos now, some people filming on their phones, others calling out encouragement or disapproval. The whole studio descended into bedlam. Alyssa stood up, trying one more time to restore order. "Can we please just take a commercial break? Everyone needs to calm down and we can figure this out off camera." "No," Joy said flatly. "She goes now. I mean it. Either she leaves or I leave, and I guarantee you this network isn't going to choose her over me." It was a power play, raw and undisguised, and everyone in the studio knew it. Cheryl's face reflected a mixture of disgust and something almost like pity. "There it is," she said softly. "That's what this has been about from the beginning. Power, control. You can't stand that I won't submit to it, so you're using every tool at your disposal to punish me. You want to talk about power?" Joy's voice had taken on a new quality, something cold and calculated. "Fine, let's talk about power. You came on this show thinking your fame would protect you, that your past success would shield you from consequences. But you're learning right now that there are still lines you can't cross, still people you can't disrespect without paying a price." "The only person being disrespected here is me," Cheryl said. "And the only person crossing lines is you. You've turned what should have been a professional interview into a personal attack. And now you're trying to have me physically removed because I won't just sit here and take it. Do you have any idea how this reflects on you?" "I know exactly how this reflects on me," Joy said. "It shows I have standards. It shows I won't be walked over in my own house. It shows that there are consequences for coming on this show and spreading your poison." Cheryl laughed, but it was a harsh, bitter sound. "My poison. You know what the real poison is, Joy? It's people like you who think they have a monopoly on truth, who think anyone who disagrees with them is evil or stupid or corrupted. That's what's poisoning discourse in this country. Not documentaries that show different perspectives, but absolutists who can't tolerate any deviation from their orthodoxy." The security guards had moved closer now, waiting for a clear signal about what to do. One of them addressed Whoopi. "Ma'am, what do you need from us?" Whoopi looked torn, glancing between Joy and Cheryl, clearly trying to figure out how to handle a situation that had spiraled completely out of control. "Just give us a minute, please." But Joy wasn't having it. "No, no more minutes. She needs to leave now." She pointed at Cheryl, her hand shaking. "Get her out of here." "Don't you dare touch me," Cheryl said to the security guards, her voice sharp. "I'm leaving. But I'm leaving on my own terms, not because she ordered it." She turned back to Joy, and when she spoke, her voice was filled with contempt. "You know what's really sad about all this? You could have just had a conversation. You could have asked me genuine questions, challenged me respectfully, engaged with the actual substance of what I created. But instead, you chose to be cruel. You chose to be a bully, and you did it in front of millions of people. I hope it was worth it." "Oh, I think it was worth it," Joy shot back. "If it means one less platform for your propaganda, then yes, absolutely worth it." "Propaganda?" Cheryl shook her head slowly. "You don't even know what that word means. Propaganda is telling people what to think, not letting them think for themselves. Propaganda is shutting down debate, not encouraging it. Propaganda is exactly what you do every single day on this show." Joy took a step toward Cheryl, and for a moment it seemed like things might get physical. Sarah jumped up and moved between them. "Okay, that's enough, both of you. This needs to stop." But neither of them was listening. They were both too far gone, too invested in the fight, too convinced of their own righteousness to back down now. "You come into my space," Joy said, her voice low and venomous. "You disrespect me. You disrespect this show. You disrespect everything we stand for. And then you have the audacity to act like you're the victim here, like we're being unfair to you. But you're not a victim, Cheryl. You're just someone who made bad choices and doesn't want to face the consequences." "The only bad choice I made was coming here," Cheryl replied. "I actually thought I might get a fair hearing. I thought maybe, despite our differences, we could have an adult conversation. But I was wrong. You're not capable of that. All you're capable of is attacking anyone who threatens your worldview." "My worldview is fine," Joy said. "It's your worldview that's the problem." "And there it is again," Cheryl said. "That absolute certainty. That complete inability to even consider that you might not have all the answers. That's not confidence, Joy. That's arrogance. And it's dangerous, far more dangerous than anything in my documentary." One of the security guards spoke up, his voice uncertain. "Miss Hines, I'm going to have to ask you to come with us now." Cheryl held up her hand. "I told you I'm leaving, but I'm going to say one more thing first." She looked directly at Joy, ignoring everyone else in the studio. Years from now, when people look back at this moment, they're going to see it for what it really was. Not a brave stand against dangerous ideas, but a desperate attempt by someone who's losing control to silence dissent. You think you're on the right side of history, but history isn't going to be kind to bullies, no matter how righteous they think they are. "Get out," Joy said, her voice barely above a whisper. "Just get out." "Gladly," Cheryl said. She turned to the other hosts, her expression softening slightly. "I'm sorry you all had to be part of this. You deserve better." Then she looked back at Joy one last time. "And so did I." She started walking toward the exit, the security guards flanking her but not touching her. The cameras followed her every step, capturing the moment in excruciating detail. The audience was silent now, stunned by what they had witnessed. Some people looked angry, others shocked, others simply confused about what had just happened. Joy stood frozen at the table, her face flushed, her hands trembling. She looked like she wanted to say something else, but for once, she seemed at a loss for words. As Cheryl reached the edge of the stage, she paused and turned back. "You know what the worst part of all this is?" she called out, her voice carrying across the silent studio. "I came here today excited to talk about work I'm proud of. Work that took years to create. That meant something to me. And you couldn't even let me have that. You had to make it about your ego, your platform, your need to tear someone down. That says everything about who you really are." Says the person who's being escorted out by security. Joy finally managed, but her voice lacked the conviction it had earlier. Cheryl smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm not being escorted out, Joy. I'm walking out. There's a difference. One suggests I did something wrong. The other suggests I have enough self-respect to remove myself from a toxic situation. I'll let the viewers decide which one this is." And with that, she walked off the stage, the security guards following behind her. The cameras stayed on Joy and the other hosts, capturing Joy's face as she realized what had just happened. As the full weight of the confrontation began to sink in, Whoopi cleared her throat, trying to salvage something from the wreckage. Well, that was certainly something. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll talk about what just happened here. But as the show cut to commercial, it was clear that no amount of spin could change what millions of people had just witnessed. A guest had been driven off the show, not for being inappropriate or out of line, but for refusing to back down in the face of relentless hostility. And it had all played out live, in front of an audience that would be talking about it for weeks to come. The cameras might have stopped rolling, but the damage was done. And everyone in that studio knew it. So what do you think about what went down between Joy and Cheryl? Was Joy out of line? Or was she justified in how she handled the situation? Drop a comment below and let us know your thoughts. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss out on stories like this. We'll see you in the next one.